So with the NBA regular season almost over, I wanted to react to videos that I made earlier in the year, and that was reacting to all your guys' hot takes for the 2024 season. So what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing? Today's video we're going to react to came out on August 18th. If you guys enjoy these style of videos, I'd appreciate it if you drop it a thumbs up. Let's see if we can get 500 likes on this video. That'd be pretty cool. And let's hop right into this. Without further ado, let's get into it. So I really like this first one from Jordan Parrish, and he says that Miami will miss the playoffs. This is a really interesting take because last year the Heat were a play-in team as the 7th seed and lost in the first leg of the play-in to the Atlanta Hawks. Then they were able to beat the Bulls and then ended up upsetting the 1-seeded Bucks, beat the Knicks, beat the Celtics, and then lost in the NBA Finals as an 8 seed to the Denver Nuggets. But they went on a miraculous playoff run behind playoff Jimmy, and they lost some notable guys this offseason with Gabe Vincent go to the Lakers, Max Strus going to the Cavs, and Victor Oladipo going to the Thunder. They're also going to see veterans like Kevin Love and Kyle Lowry get up there in age after we saw them take a step back last year. Now they still have a great trio at the top with Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero, but they're really going to have to rely on some of their young guys like 2022 first round pick Nikola Jovic and 2023 first round pick in Jaime Jaquez. They also need to see either Tyler Hero or Bam Adebayo take the next step to being that clear-cut number 2 to Jimmy's 1. And they brought in some nice veteran pieces like Josh Richardson, a nice homecoming there in Miami, Thomas Bryant, and other guys that are going to be playing on the Heat once again like Orlando Robinson or Hayward Highsmith might have to break out this season. Now I'm predicting the Heat to make the playoffs 100%, but this is not a bad take whatsoever because if they get a major injury or just have a rough end to the regular season like they did in 2023, the East is bound to be a little bit more competitive this season with other teams like the Orlando Magic, Indiana Pacers, and Toronto Raptors being more competitive. This Heat team isn't a for sure lock as a top 6 seed in the East. And who knows, maybe the play-in tournament doesn't go their way and they do miss the playoffs. This isn't a bad take whatsoever. Okay, honestly, it's still not the worst take in the world. I mean, they are the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference with Embiid still out. I don't know if they fall behind the Sixers, and I don't think they're going to end up worse than the Bulls this year. So there is a chance they don't make the playoffs, right? Like they could lose against the Sixers or the Pacers in the play-in tournament. They could somehow lose to the winner of the Bulls-Hawks game. Like that is possible, but it's the Miami Heat at the end of the day. They'll find a way to get it done, but it wasn't the worst take in the world. Merriman says that the Boston Celtics are going to win 60 plus games and Kristaps Porzingis is going to win DPOY. Now, if Porzingis did win Defensive Player of the Year, this would be the 2nd Celtic to win it in the last 3 years, with Marcus Smart winning it in 2022. Now, I 100% agree with Daniel that the Celtics are going to win 60 games. I think that they are almost a lock to get the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. All right, hey, that's kind of a fact. I'm glad I knew that, but I feel like that was an obvious pick. Talked about the Miami Heat and how they might not be a top seed in the East this year. The 76ers don't have the depth, especially if they trade away James Harden to be the number 1 seed in my opinion. The Bucks have had an injury history over the last few years and have a lot of veterans on their team, so I don't think that they can get the 1 seed either. And yes, we could see teams like Cleveland or New York or Atlanta really exceed expectations this year, but I think Atlanta, man, they really fooled everybody. It's going to be a lock that the Celtics win 60 plus games, get the 1 seed in the East because their roster is so deep. Yes, they lost Marcus Smart this offseason, but they picked up Kristaps Porzingis in that trade. Jordan Walsh looked really good throughout the summer league. It's going to be another year of experience with Joe Mazzulla at the helm. And yeah, you won't have to worry about the Jalen Brown contract drama as he just recently signed the Supermax extension. And you add in the 2023 6th Man of the Year in Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, Derek White, who improved so much last year, especially in the playoffs, Al Horford, Sam Hauser, and others. I think that the Celtics roster is insanely deep around their top guy, Jason Tatum, and they, in my opinion, are a lock to get the 1 seed, 60 plus wins. Good take on that side from Daniel. Now, I don't think that Kristaps Porzingis is going to win DPOY. I don't think he's going to stay healthy enough throughout the season and really be relied on as that top rim protector on this Celtics team. Because when he is healthy, that goes to Time Lord Robert Williams, but that's a big if as well. There's a lot of injury concerns between Kristaps and Time Lord, but Kristaps looked great last year, and hey, maybe the Celtics win 60 plus games. Kristaps is maybe that starting center at year's end and averages a career high in blocks and steals, and that makes this a bold take for sure. I agree with the latter part of Daniel's bold take, but not the first part of it with Kristaps winning DPOY. So this obviously came out before the Jrue Holiday trade to the Boston Celtics. Dame was still a member of the Portland Trailblazers because that happened at the end of September. That's why I still mentioned like Malcolm Brogdon was there, Time Lord Robert Williams was there, but Kristaps this year has stayed relatively healthy. I mean, he's still gonna not play like 65 games. It seems like 46 games. He has missed some time this year, and honestly a little bit more than I I thought he did at 46 games. So maybe like that also was going to hurt his DPOY or his DPOY chances. And I said that for sure. But when he's been out there, he has been a phenomenal defender for the Celtics this season. That is objectively true. And the Celtics pretty much a lock to get the 1 seed in the East. So yeah, they're going to definitely win 60 games. He mentions that Jonathan Kuminga is going to win 6th Man of the Year for the Warriors and also puts up 17 points and 6 rebounds on 56% shooting. Okay, Kuminga is not going to win 6th Man of the Year because he has started 38 games this year for the Warriors, which honestly, you'd rather see him do. Obviously, with the suspensions to Draymond Green, he has stepped up. And he's not going to average, I think, 6 rebounds. 17 points he could get to with him playing so much better over the second half of this season. But honestly, this is a pretty good take. Like, yeah, he's not going to win 6th Man because he's not really going to be eligible for that award. But he said 17 and 6. He may end up with 16 and 5. And he said 56% shooting. Not going to happen either. But hey, I think you take 53% after he ended up shooting 52% last year. So it's going to go up a little bit. Bounce on 56% shooting. Now, I'm going to preface this. I love Jonathan Kuminga. I was super high on him coming out of the 2021 draft. I was very shocked when he fell to 7th overall, but I don't think there's a chance that Kuminga gets 6th Man of the Year and puts up 17 points a night. Now, in a recent video of mine, I predicted 10 guys that will break out and have the best years of their career next year, and one of those players, spoiler alert, was Jonathan Kuminga. But I just think that this Warriors team is too deep, and he's going to be behind veterans like Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Andrew Wiggins in the scoring pecking order. Now, it definitely helps out Kuminga with Jordan Poole leaving and Chris Paul coming in, because Chris Paul is more of a facilitator and isn't going to average as many points as Jordan Poole did last year for Golden State. So I do think we'll see Kuminga maybe get in that 12 to 14 range, which would be a massive improvement for him. He shot 51% as a rookie from the field, 52% last year, so it's not completely out of question for him to average 56% shooting overall. So I think a more realistic stat line for Kuminga would be like 12 points per game, 5 rebounds on around 56% shooting a night. Now, I do think that there's some better 6th Man of the Year candidates out there, so I'm not on the train with EVZ predicting that, but I do agree with him that he's going to improve and have the best season of his career next year. This one, so yeah, he is having the best season of his career, but I'm wrong. I said like the 12-point range. He's at the 16-point range. I didn't really think he was going to win 6th Man of the Year, but yeah, he has definitely done better than I thought he would, even though I thought that he was going to have the best year of his career. So you know what? That's a bad take from me, 100%. One comes from Seth Crosby, and he's predicting Jalen Brunson to average 30 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists, join the 50-40-90 club, and win MVP for the New York Knicks. Okay, so he said 30, 4, and 8. He's going to average 27 points around there, which honestly, you know, it's not 30. It's not 30, but it's still a great season. 4 rebounds. I mean, he could get up to that. He's at 3.6. He's at 6.5 assists. Yeah, it's going to be pretty impossible to get to 8 by the end of the year. And then 50-40-90 splits. I mean, he's going to, I think, be right around 40% from 3. I mean, he's at 40% right now. 50% from the field is probably going to be hard to achieve, but if he ends up with 48%, you'll take that. 90% from the line is not going to happen either, but hey, he could finish around 85%. He's not going to win MVP because the Knicks are not going to have a good enough record. I think if they were the 1 seed in the East, that would be his reasoning, and maybe I'll go into that in this video also. But you know what? Not the worst take either, but like the stat-wise, not the worst take, but yeah, MVP, he wasn't really close. New York Knicks. Now, as much as I love Jalen Brunson and the Knicks, as a Knicks fan, I don't think that Jalen Brunson is going to win MVP this year. Now, I love this being a complete bold take because he's definitely a dark horse candidate to win. The Knicks are an extremely deep team, and who knows, they could surprise some people and be a top 2 seed in the East. And I think we can all agree Jalen Brunson will be the #1 scorer on this team, but I do think it's going to be tough for him to average 30 points a night because he did average 24 last year, but they have 2 other primary scorers in RJ Barrett and Julius Randle on the team that are bound to average 18 plus a night. Then you add in guys like Josh Hart, Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickly, and the newly acquired Dante DiVincenzo. I don't know if there's going to be enough volume for Jalen Brunson to average 30 points. He did shoot 49% from the field last year and 41% from 3, so it is completely possible for him to average 50% from the field and 40 from 3. He shot 83% from the line last year. 2 years ago in 2022, he had a career high at 84%, so we need to see his free throw percentage jump up 6 percentage points to be in the 50-40-90 club. And hey, if he checks off all 3 of those boxes, averages 34 and 8 on 50-40-90 splits, and the Knicks are a top 2 seed in the Eastern Conference and win 50 plus games, the market, the narrative can help Jalen Brunson, especially if he has a great FIBA run as one of the top captains on that team. So the narrative's definitely in place for a Knick to win MVP, and that's why this is a bold take. I don't hate it overall, but I do think it's a little bit of wishful thinking. Best hot takes. All right, so honestly, yeah, like I think I pretty much said what was going to make sense. I mean, I don't think there was enough volume for Brunson to average 30, but I think the reason why he's averaging 27, the injuries to Julius Randle, the trade from RJ Barrett and quickly, that's like north of 30 points a night going to Toronto for OG Anunoby, who kind of came over averaging around 16 and 17. So the volume has definitely been there for Brunson with all the injuries this year too to OG and Julius Randle. But you know, it wasn't the worst take. He's not going to win MVP because of the Knicks seeding, but you know what? That's why it's a hot take. Mentions that not only will the Houston Rockets make the playoffs, but they'll win a first round series. Now, every year there's a team that really exceeds expectations. In 2021, it was the New York Knicks. In 2022, it was the Chicago Bulls. Last year, it was the Sacramento Kings. But to be honest with you, I don't think either of these happen. I don't predict that the Houston Rockets will make the playoffs. I don't think that the Houston Rockets will win a round one series because I don't think that they will make the playoffs. Now, this team is still incredibly young. They did add veterans like Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Jock Lawndale, brought in new head coach Ime Udoka. I loved most of those moves, more the Udoka and VanVleet signing than the Brooks and Lawndale signings. And they have a plethora of young talent that we've talked about countless times on the channel with Jalen Green, newly drafted Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore, second and third year frontcourt guys like Jabari Smith Jr. and now Perun Sengun. I think that this Rockets team is going to be in that play-in tournament conversation, but I do think that they could be last year's OKC Thunder. Really see this young core develop, be flirting with the play-in tournament most of the season, maybe even make it as the 10th or 9th seed, but don't fully make the playoffs. Because even if they do make the playoffs as an 8th or 7th seed, I can't see this team beating like a Denver or a Memphis or a Golden State or a Lakers team in round one. So yeah, I do believe that the Houston Rockets are going to take a massive step forward in their rebuild this year, but I don't think that they're going to be seeing playoff basketball just yet. I think we have to wait till 2025 to see that. This one, okay, it's funny because I mentioned teams like Memphis, Golden State, and the Lakers that they could face in round number one if they were 7th or the 8th seed. Well, Memphis did not expect all those injuries as they are the 13th seed in the West. And if they were ever going to play the Lakers or Warriors in meaningful games, it would be in the play-in tournament because that's where they pretty much are right now. And honestly, they're 3.5 games back of the 10th spot in the play-in tournament. So I think me saying that they could be last year's Thunder and flirt with the play-in tournament all year, not a terrible take. I did not think that this team was going to make the playoffs. There's probably less than a 2% chance that they end up doing because they would need to leapfrog Golden State for that 10th spot and then go through maybe the Lakers in the first leg of the play-in and then maybe Phoenix or Sacramento or Dallas in the second leg of the play-in. So it's virtually impossible for them to make it, but I think you're fine with this season for the Rockets because you used to be where the Spurs were, where the Blazers are, and like you are one of the worst teams in the Western Conference. Not anymore. You have the young guys progressing. You have a legitimate head coach there that can run this team for the future. So I think that's all you wanted to see from the Rockets in 2024. Comes from Stifle Tower. He says that Rudy Gobert doesn't have a bad back anymore and is going to contend for his 4th Defensive Player of the Year award. It would be crazy if Rudy Gobert did win his 4th DPOY. That would probably lock him in as a first ballot Hall of Famer. And it's crazy because he's definitely one of the more hated players around the league. And I know you guys have been seeing him taking threes in the FIBA league right now for France, but I could totally see this. Usually when a big trade like this happens for even a player like Gobert who's so acclimated to his system, especially what he did in Utah, it was bound to take a year learning under Chris Finch's defensive system, playing next to Karl Anthony Towns in the front court, something he hasn't really done in his 10-year career so far. So I 100% think that Gobert is going to have a much better 2024 in his second year in Minnesota than he did last year with them. And we know that DPOY is mainly a center award, so there's going to be guys like Miles Turner, Bam Adebayo, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brook Lopez, all fighting for this DPOY award, but Gobert definitely has the track record to get it, so this is 100% possible. And yeah, I just think overall that the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be much better this year, just seeing that jump from Anthony Edwards, and just another year of experience with Cat and Gobert playing together in the front court. This one comes, all right, let's go. That was a great take by him, and Gobert is pretty much in line to get his 4th DPOY award. The Minnesota Timberwolves look so much better this year as they are the 3 seed in the Western Conference, so good takes all around by us. Besides me mentioning Brook Lopez being in the DPOY conversation and not mentioning Victor Wembanyama whatsoever. Comes from Fields and Mooney season. He says that Nikola Jokic will regain his all-star play as the Bulls finish as the 3 seed in the East, and he also thinks that LaVine and DeRozan are going to be all-stars, and we see a jump from Kobe White and Patrick Williams this season. Now, there's actually a bunch of hot takes in this one tweet, so we'll dissect it part by part. Now, I don't think that Nikola Vucevic is going to be an all-star this season. I do think we're going to see him be around what he was last year for the Bulls, averaging around 17 points and 11 rebounds, which isn't bad whatsoever. I also don't think that the Bulls are going to finish as the 3 seed. I think there's a more likely chance that they miss the playoffs altogether than finish as a top 6 seed in the East, because it's really hard to put them ahead of Boston, Milwaukee, New York, Cleveland, Philly, and potentially Miami and Atlanta right now. And then, like I said before, you may see jumps from Orlando or Indiana, and it's looking more likely that the Bulls, who made some minor moves this offseason, picking up Javon Carter Carter, Torrey Craig aren't going to really take a huge jump next year. I think there's a chance that either one of LaVine or DeRozan becomes all-stars. I do think that Zach LaVine has become underrated throughout the league due to his massive contract. I also do think that Coby White is going to have a significant jump. I did like that re-signing by the Bulls, and I'm not going to fully commit and say that Patrick Williams will break out this season. I thought it was going to happen for the last two, and maybe we see him become an all-world defender this year. That is definitely a possibility, but I think it's more likely on the defensive end than the offensive end because he's still going to be the third, fourth, fifth scoring option for the Bulls, being behind LaVine, DeRozan, and Vucevic. This one comes from... So honestly, part by part there, yeah, the Bulls were not a good team this year. They could end up in the play-in tournament, but they're not going to make it out of it. Vucevic was not like an all-star. DeRozan and LaVine, neither of them made all-star parts either. LaVine's pretty much been out the whole year. DeRozan didn't get traded, but Patrick Williams maybe didn't take the jump. We all thought he had an abysmal start to the season. He's going to finish somewhat strong, but shout out to the Coby White take. He has taken obviously a significant jump as he may be the most improved player. So I'm glad I was also on that train as well. From Joshua, and he says that the Pacers are going to be a top 5 seed in the East. Now, I've been saying this as of late. I think we got to cool down just a little bit on the Pacers hype because while I do love what the Pacers did this offseason, drafting Jarris Walker, signing Bruce Brown, and keeping their core of Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, Buddy Hield, Benedict Mathurin all happy and together, I don't think that the Pacers are going to be a top 6 seed in the East. I talked about it a little bit before. I still think Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, New York, Cleveland, and even Atlanta are clearly better at the moment. Now, if Indiana stays fully healthy, yes, there's a chance they definitely make the playoffs as a top 6 seed. They could be 5 or 6. But in my opinion, I would say it's more likely that they end up as a back-end play-in team at 9 or 10 than a top 6 seed. But hey, maybe I'm underrating this Pacers team, and I love watching Tyrese Halliburton on every single night because he is so much fun to watch, and he proved to me that I can actually evaluate prospects at some times because I did predict him to be the 4th best player in the 2020 draft class. But I do think that there's a good chance that the Pacers end up in the play-in tournament. Maybe they do get the 8 seed, but there's a more likely chance that they end up as a top 6 seed in 2025. And the last... All right, so I don't think the best take from me by far. That was a good take from Joshua because the Pacers right now are the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, and they are only 2 games back, 2.5 games back of the Knicks seed at the 4th spot, of the Knicks spot at 4 and the Magic at 5. So there's a good chance, or there's even a possible chance that the Pacers could end up as the 4th seed. Yes, they could fall to the 8th spot in the play-in tournament because they are only half a game better than Philadelphia, but a bad take by me saying that they could end up as the 9th or 10th seed in the East because I was higher on Atlanta coming into the season. So I don't think this was the worst take by me, and I think this was a much better take by Joshua than it was for me. All right, so let's get into the last take here for this video. This one comes from Cleveland HQ. He says that Joel Embiid gets traded at the deadline, Sixers miss the playoffs, and they rebuild again. All right, so this would be a massive thing to happen. Now, I don't think a player of Joel Embiid's stature, somebody that's under contract for still a couple more seasons, gets traded at the deadline. I think that would 100% be more of an offseason trade. And with a James Harden looking more and more likely on the horizon after coming out and saying that Daryl Morey is a liar and he's never going to play for him ever again, and the Sixers are most likely going to get pennies on the dollar in return for a James Harden trade, that this team with not a lot of depth and Embiid, Maxey, PJ Tucker, Tobias Harris at the top isn't really going to do much in the playoffs. So there is a chance that this is a rough reset year for Philadelphia. Embiid isn't happy. He doesn't see a clear-cut pathway for them winning a championship in the next 2 to 3 years, and he does as scout. Now, there's a chance that they maybe exceed expectations after trading James Harden, and then Embiid recruits his buddy Pascal Siakam over, and they end up with Pascal Siakam next offseason. Sure, that could happen, but I don't know how likely that really is, and I think Embiid might ask for a trade next offseason if this season ends up being a disaster, as we all think it may be. I think that was a popular topic when James Harden wanted out. The Sixers weren't really going to get equal return for him when they traded him to the Clippers, but it's, I think, worked out for them. Obviously, Embiid didn't get traded at the deadline, and I think he's more bought into this team going forward. We've seen the jump from Tyrese Maxey this year as well into year number 4. Could they miss the playoffs? Yes, it's a possibility. They could end up in the play-in tournament with Embiid might not coming back for a little bit. Could come back before the end of the season, but yeah, I don't know if they're going to end up getting that 6th spot because they don't look great without him, and they're just trying to stay alive, but there's a good enough gap between them and Chicago that they're not going to end up as the 9th seed, so they just have to win one play-in tournament game. Could Embiid get traded in the offseason? Yeah, it's a possibility, but I highly doubt that's going to happen, and I don't think that they're going to enter into a total rebuild with their max contract available and with Maxey and Embiid looking like a good 1-2 punch for 2025. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know if you did by dropping a thumbs up. Would love to know what you guys think about these takes or my reaction in the comments below. I'm excited for the season also to be over to react to stuff that I made prior to when the season started, like my top 50 players for this season video, or just my overall season predictions where I went over my standings predictions, my trade predictions, my award predictions back in October. October. So yeah, that's gonna be for me. I love you guys. Excited to also make some March Madness content early next week for you guys. Gonna, of course, have my bracket when Selection Sunday happens. So I'll see you guys then. Peace.